As promised, I'm back with a recap of episode 2, so let's jump right on in to Shogun, Servants of Two Masters. So this episode opens with a flashback of the past to a year ago when the Taiko is dying. We see Toranaga present, and then next to the Taiko is his wife consort. Oh, her name escapes me. Okay, so the consort wife's name is Kiri Dokata. We're just going to call her Kiri. So she's there sitting with her husband, watching him pass, and to the side is Lady Ochiba, and that is the heir's mother. The heir is also there. He calls him to him. They exchange some sweet words with his son. In this scene is when I fall deeply in love with Lady Ochiba. There is a priest there, and he's trying to tell one of the regents, his name escapes me, I'm going to look it up for you guys though. He's telling him if he doesn't receive sacrament right now, he's going to be lost to God's kingdom. Nobody wants to be lost to God's kingdom, do they? Lady Ochiba overhears, and she walks by him and she says, maybe God's kingdom is up your ass. Instantly fall in love with that girl. So all the other regents are in the room during this moment with the Taiko. The consort wife asks everyone to leave. And as everyone is leaving, the Taiko asks Toranaga to stay behind. The Taiko and Toranaga have a moment together. And in that moment, the Taiko thinks of his son. And he knows that the vultures are going to start circling once he dies. So he asks Toranaga what he would think of becoming the sole regent. Because as you know, there's a council of regents. I think there's 5 of them. And he's asking Toranaga, what do you think about becoming the sole regent? Toranaga explains that if he were to become sole regent, that would give all of his enemies the perfect reason to surround him, kill him, and obviously kill the heir as well. So he turns that down. He does not want that life. He does not want those types of problems. The Taiko says that he is a wise man for turning it down, and this is when he forms the Council of Regents, and he names Toranaga, Ishido, Kiyama, Ono, and Shugiyama. So those are the 5 regents appointed to the council. So this scene really demonstrates that the Taiko had an affinity for Toranaga and he trusted him. In the end, he asked him to protect his son from his enemies and his friends. So now we're back in the thick, back to the juiciness. Now we're on one of the Portuguese ships, and we see Rodriguez having a meal with who we're just now getting introduced to, Father Alvito, who is going to be a translator between Toranaga and, what's that boy name? Blackthorne. So I know we saw Toranaga ask Mariko to translate, but she was there just to be a sneak translator, to make sure that Father Alvito is going to be translating correctly, right? So this is the moment where we get introduced to him, and then there's another head priest guy. I don't know his name. He might be more important eventually, but not yet. So Rodriguez is presenting them with the orders that he found. So they're going through and they're talking about how he's a savage. And now they have proof that he's a savage, and they want to present this information to the Japanese. But Father Alvito says, Toranaga is a very thorough man. He's going to want a thorough translation of this book before he decides to accuse Blackthorne of any wrongdoing. And he turns to a page at the back of the book. They do not say what he sees, but it seems like whatever he saw at the back of that book gives him pause. Like he does not want that translated for Toranaga for some reason. So little sneaky Catholics are into something. So now we get to the meeting between Toranaga and Pilate. Father Alvito is there to translate. He notices Lady Mariko, whom he calls Lady Maria. Toranaga asks him if he's offended by her presence. The father says no, and then he proceeds to accurately translate. I'm not sure if he would have translated accurately. When he was on a boat with the other guy, they mentioned Macau and that their Japanese host can't know about this. So there's something there that they're hiding. And it seems like when he was leaving initially, he was not planning to translate accurately, but he did so during this meeting. Blackthorne explains to Toranaga that he was sent here from Holland, and that they had granted him permission to trade freely, and he has weapons on his ship because they're there to protect him from anyone who would try to stop them. Toranaga says, well, what if I want to stop you? Okay? And Blackthorne says, we don't want no beef. I promise. We don't want no beef with y'all. I've been here. I've seen it. Trust me. We don't want them problems. He says that he couldn't imagine being enemies with the Japanese. Toranaga says, but I can. I can see us being enemies. But what then? And Blackthorne just humbly says that I would surely die because there's just no way. There's just no way. We don't want no problem. Europeans love problems though. So that's just one guy. The rulers of his continent feel differently. We all know history. We know what happened. So then the Ishido's bitch ass charges into the meeting, being all disruptive and whatnot. He looks at Pilot and is like, how ugly. He look like a dog. The way he called that boy ugly, I agree. So Ishido is like, why is he here? Why you got this boy in the castle? Toranaga says, I have no use for him. If you want, I can have my son escort him off to jail. That's what he does. Blackthorne obviously gets upset. He thinks the father said something crazy to them. He thinks he mistranslated because, of course, he doesn't trust any of these Portuguese. In the next scene, we get a very cute moment with Mariko and her son, but it's interrupted by her whack-ass husband, Buntaro. Is it Buntaro? 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 Child. He ruins the moment. He busts up in the room being all misogynistic. He can't stand to hear his son laugh, apparently. Boys can't laugh. He compares him to a woman because he's laughing. So not only is he a misogynist, but he's jealous. One of them dudes who be jealous of women. So weird. His son lets him know, that mom was at a meeting with Toranaga today. Isn't that cool? No, Buntaro, like, why? Why you doing stuff outside the house? You don't exist outside this house. She explains she needed to practice her Portuguese, but he like, why you need to practice your Portuguese? Okay, what you need to practice that for? So then his daddy, Hiromatsu, pop up in the room, and he's like, Toranaga calls another meeting. Buntaro decides to get up because he thinks he's going to this meeting, but he's like, no, son, slow your ass down. He don't need you. He wants your wife, which, jealous misogynist. He didn't like hearing. He a little bitter, but what you gonna do? That's right. So this meeting happens to be a dinner with Mariko, Lady Ochiba. No, not Lady Ochiba. Lady Kiri, and then we meet Lady Shizu, who's pregnant with Toranaga's child. And you know what? In the scene with Toranaga in the Taiko when he's dying, he mentions that he doesn't like beautiful women, Toranaga. So, I thought his baby mama was going to be, that's what she's a decent looking woman, Lady Shizu. I don't know why he said that, He said he don't like pretty girls. I mean, she's not the baddest. You know what I'm saying? She's an average looking woman. But anyway. So in the meeting, he's basically just asking Mariko what she thought of the father's translation, and she tells him, yeah, he was totally honest with us. we can trust his translations. He also asks her how she feels about the barbarian, and she says her initial instinct is to guard against him. So in the first episode, at that first meeting, we find out, that he has Lady Ochiba at his castle because his daughter-in-law is in labor. Now we find out that his grandchild has been born, and now Lady Ochiba is like, all right, send me back to my castle. And once she returns, they're going to be able to vote on his impeachment. And I guess impeachment means death. So my confusion with this whole thing is impeachment a death sentence in feudal Japan? Or does it just mean we've removed certain protections from you? So now, if we want to go after you and kill you, we can. Like with an American president, just because they're not president anymore, it doesn't mean that they lose their security, right? They still have their security. But would that mean you lose your security, which opens you up to people now being able to have access to you to harm you? You know what I mean? Like, that's where my confusion is. But they want him gone because, like, in the first episode, they mentioned that he doubled his fiefdom, which they do not mess with. He's way more powerful than all the other regents. His character is constantly acting like he doesn't want power, yet he's constantly making these power moves. So they want to take him out. Hirumatsu is concerned about sending Lady Ochiba back because he's like, well, now we're just all sitting ducks. We're just going to sit here and wait for them to vote on all of our deaths. But Toranaga does have something up his sleeve. He wants to use Pilot. Hirumatsu and me, I'm Hirumatsu, don't really understand how he's going to use Pilot to sow division between the council. Lady Bariko sees it though. She sees the vision, right? She's like, look, 2 of the council regents are Christian. If we can use Blackthorne to sow division between those Christian regents and Ishido, you need all 5 of those people, or will you need those other regents to be on one accord in order to vote on his impeachment. But again, I don't understand how he's going to get them to turn against Ishido when Ishido wants what they want. He wants Blackthorne killed. And that's what those Catholic regents want. They want him killed because he is offensive to their religion. So I'm not sure, like, how are you going to somehow convince Ishido not to have Blackthorne killed? Or is he going to make it look like Ishido is preventing Blackthorne from being killed? I'm not sure. I don't know how this is going to play out, but that's the game that it's playing. I don't see it. I don't see the vision yet. Yeah. It's going to work out. It seems like things work out for this man. So Blackthorne finds himself in jail. He's under the impression that he's just going to be held there for a little while, but he finds out pretty quickly that everyone in there is marked for death. You're in this jail, you gonna die. He is flabbergasted, okay, to say the least. He thinks some sort of mistake has been made. It hasn't. There is a priest in there, and he is there to pray over everyone before they take them to be. Blackthorne starts flipping out, like, hold on, sometimes I know, man, oh my god, like, I'm a guest of Lord Toranaga, I'm special, I shouldn't be here. The priest brings him back down to earth pretty quickly, and he lets him know, baby, you don't know Toranaga is a prisoner in that castle, okay? Nobody in there likes him. It seems like he has power, but they're about to vote on his death, okay? And he breaks down the different regents to him. So, the regents, you have Tsukiyama, okay? He is a descendant of one of the largest samurai clans in the country. They do not mention his religious affiliation. I'm sure it's one of their traditional faith. And then you have Ono. He's the one who wears a little, looks like a hijab, okay? And his face is all tore up. He has leprosy. And he is one of the converts. He converted because of his leprosy. And then you have Kiyama, the one that I mentioned before, the one who was talking to the priest at the Taiko's, what would you call that, a funeral? He wasn't dead yet. I don't know what you would call that. His little dying ceremony. He is a convert, but it seems like his conversion is just based on greed and money. And he's just in it for the connections that it brings in. And then we have Ishido, who's the head guy who has everybody else in his pocket against Toranaga. So Ishido is super gaslit to go into a meeting with the other 4 or the other 3 regions to vote on Toranaga's impeachment. But unfortunately, okay, the 2 religious ones, Ono and I think Shugiyama, I don't remember if it's Shugiyama or Kiyama is the one that's religious. I think it's Shugiyama. Those 2 say they are not going to vote. And this is where you see Toranaga's plan come into play. They say they're not going to vote until the heretic is dead. The heretic being Blackthorne. They say he is offensive to their God. They have proof that he has killed countless Christians in his little crusade to get to Japan. And they want his ass dead, or they're not going to vote. So Toranaga's little plan is working. But again, it's not like Ishido doesn't want him dead. So he's going to get him and kill him. So, whatever. Let's see how this plays out, though. Blackthorne and that priest are talking more about Toranaga, and he's explaining to him about the Minowara bloodline. And he's telling him how that bloodline was giving that specific designation that only a Minowara can hold the title of Shogun. And he explains to him that Shogun is the highest title that a mortal can hold. So as far as rank, the highest title is Emperor. But emperors are considered descendants of divinity. Okay, so they're like gods on earth. They cannot waste their time with mortal matters. Okay, they can't be involved with a little day-to-day tasks of running a country. They have to give those tasks to the mere mortals, and the highest rank that a mortal can hold is a shogun. So that's what we're dealing with. That is what everyone is afraid of. Well, all the other regions are afraid of Toranaga being a Minowara, jumping in and saying, I'm Shogun. Because what you gonna do? What you gonna do to the man that holds the highest title beneath the emperor? You're not gonna do nothing. So we discover in the conversation that Blackthorne has with the priest in jail, that the priest kind of lost faith in the church as an organization. He saw the corruption. He came to Japan thinking that he was going to save all these lost souls, but he realized that it was just a money thing, that they were just there creating trade routes to become rich, and that none of this has anything to do with God and faith and love of your fellow man or the souls of your fellow man. No one's trying to save any souls. People are just trying to line their pockets. And then he lets a little information slip about Macau and smuggling guns. He mentions that the Taiko knew about what the Portuguese were up to and that he tried to put a stop to it, but the Portuguese, using Macau, excited a rebellion against it, and they were smuggling guns through Macau to assist with this whole rebellion against the Taiko. So the information is getting juicy. We're getting into it. We're finding out new things. We're getting the details. The story is unraveling. He also gets another little bit of information about the fact that he met someone who had been at the base in Macau, and he said that it was loaded with tons of Japanese soldiers who had been converted to Catholicism. And he realizes in that moment that the lords don't know about this. And so in his mind, he's like, I need to be able to tell these people that, because this will be my way out, right? So he's hoping, wishing a prayer that this tidbit of information about Macau will help him out of this situation that he's in. Because he's about to die. So then we see Lady Mariko having a conversation with Father Alvito. And in the conversation, he's asking her about translating. And she mentions she does not enjoy translating. She did not like the way Blackthorne was talking to him. I don't know if she's being genuine here or not, but girl, okay. He wasn't even doing all that. Then the father randomly brings up the fact that Mariko has confessed some dark thoughts to him. I don't like this. It seems like all the men in her life that want to manipulate her to do their bidding keep bringing up they keep bringing up her trauma to manipulate her, and I can't stand it. She looks so young too. It just grosses me out. And they say she got married 16 years ago and she looks like a child. He then tells her about reading the book that was found on the boat, and he tells her, look, whatever you feel about Blackthorne, the negative thoughts that you have about him, trust your heart, because he's capable of much worse and he's guilty of much worse. So then we have a scene between Ishido and, damn it, what is his name? So then we have a scene between Ishido and Yabushige. Ishido's being messy, trying to sow resentment between Yabushige and Toranaga. He doesn't understand his loyalty to him, and he's bringing up the fact that he didn't even invite him to the castle, but whatever. Yabushige has his reason. And I mean, he isn't really loyal to him. If you think about it, he was going to keep that ship to himself. But Ishido asked him about why he thinks Toranaga has like this thing, this heart on for Blackthorne. Yabushige says it's probably because all of the weapons that he has on his ship. But Ishido is like, we have weapons here in Japan, so... And then Yabushige says it's probably because we're going to have to go up against the Christians next. But to that, Ishido gets offended because he's like, no, we have Christians on our council and we're united. There's not going to be any beef between us and the Christian. He explains to Ishido he's going to be number one after that. But he's going to have to contend with Kiyama and Ono, who are Christian leaders. And he says they're going to have the backing of Portuguese. And Ishido realizes if that's true, that is a war that I would lose. I'm not going to be able to go up against Kiyama and Ono and all those Portuguese. And then Yabushige explains to him, you know, you might have a dog in this fight if you use Blackthorne. Now, even though it seems like Yabushige does little shit behind Toranaga's back, I think he actually is incredibly loyal to Toranaga, and I think that is why he's planting this seed in Ishido's head, to get Ishido to want to protect the barbarian. Like I said earlier, it doesn't make any sense since Ishido wants to do what the Christians want to do. He wants to kill him too. So the fact that Yabushige is putting it in his head to go against those Christians, it seems like Yabushige actually is very loyal to Toranaga. But unfortunately, Ishido says, you know, I already ordered his execution, but this is when Yabushige says, I might could help you out with that. I might could help you out with your little problem. So eventually it comes time for Blackthorne to be executed. The men come to grab him, to take him to his final resting place. The boy praying, he praying to God. He doing all the stuff. Okay. Don't let this be the way I die, Lord. Please, Jesus, please. And they take him out into the woods. Is that the woods? Forest. I don't know. They take him somewhere out into the wilderness. But when they get there, arrows start flying. And the men who were there to kill him end up getting killed themselves. And we see Yabushige standing there all proud of himself because he set this up. It looks like he paid a group of men to kill the people that were going to kill Blackthorne. He throws them some money, and then after he throws them the money, he goes and slits their throats, and he has his men kill those men, right? So probably because he don't want no snitches. I don't know why his men couldn't have just done that, but whatever. He sent some other dudes to do it, and he killed those dudes. No snitches. Blackthorne obviously is very grateful for that. And he says, thank you in Japanese. And it It's followed by the most hilarious scene ever with Yabushinge saying, "Oh, look at him. He knows how to speak like a civilized human being." Then he teaches him how to say, "I am a dog." And he proceeds to treat him like a dog. He's like, "See, good boy. He's a good dog." He makes him get down on his knees. He's like, "See, all he needed is a good master. He's a good boy. He's a good dog." And I love that scene. Definitely one of my favorite scenes. So after they rescue Blackthorne, they bring him back to the castle to sit in front of Toranaga and the young heir. Mariko is there to translate, and they ask Blackthorne to draw a map of the world as he knows it. So he goes into the garden, they give him a ladle, and he draws it out. And he explains where Europe is, where he thinks Europe is. Because how he gonna draw a map of the world? He didn't even know Japan existed. So whatever. So he draws Europe, he draws Japan, and he's telling them that they came through Magellan's Path and that was the safest route for them. They didn't know that it existed originally. He says the Portuguese kept it a secret. He said it was the safest way for them to go because they needed to avoid Macau. He said that there is a secret base in Macau, which Toranaga and his people did not know. And once they hear that, there is an audible disbelief amongst the crowd. He just gives them a rundown about what we've already known about the base, that it employs a Japanese mercenary and that it was used during the uprising. Blackthorne further explains the caucasity of the Spaniards and the Portuguese and how they decided they were going to divide up the world and split it between the two of them because that's just how they think the world works, apparently. And he explains to them that Japan falls on the Portuguese side, and so to the Portuguese, y'all belong to them. And of course, nobody wants to hear that. They're all disgusted by the news. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted by the news, and I'm just watching it. And I'm just hearing him talk just enrages me. What? You just took out a map. Like, what? Finally, Blackthorne explains that the goal of the Portuguese and the Spaniards is to replace all the rulers in Japan with Catholic rulers. Mariko is obviously upset. She says that he's lying, but he assures her, "Baby girl, I'm not lying to you." He makes a comment about the arrogance of the Spaniards and the Portuguese being unbelievable, as if he's not speaking the Queen's English, and like he's not an English man. Okay? The arrogance of the British, like you're gonna do the same thing. Like, what are you talking about? Your goal is to do the same thing you motherfuckers are doing. So, what are you talking about? He makes it sound good to them. He tells him that his goal there is to enlist them against their common enemy. But you're the enemy. All of you. All of the Europeans are your enemy. All their religions are your enemy. It's all downhill from here, you guys. Okay? Toranaga tells him that he's outnumbered and trying to wage a war here against the Portuguese is a waste of his time. He's just gonna die. And to that, Blackthorne replies, "Well, not if I win." And for some reason, that puts a little smirky smirk on Toranaga's face. Like, that makes him happy a little bit. It's not a huge smile, but it's a little smirky smirk. Like, I don't know, like he sees a little bit of himself in him. Like, he likes his arrogance, I guess. He tells him he's allowed to stay in the castle for the night. Yeah, seems he's made a new friend. So after they conclude their little meeting, Mariko takes Blackthorne to where he's going to be spending the night. And some women enter the room, and they are there to assist him in getting bathed. He don't want to take a bath. He turns the bath down. He says, I've recently bathed. And Mariko says, in the prison. And he was like, in the forest. She was like, okay, but that was 2 days ago, baby. And he's like, yes, it was. It's like, what? You want me to catch the flux? Disgusting. I stand by my original idea, which was to light that ship on fire. He then tries to plant, a seed of distrust in Mariko towards the priests who have been teaching her for over 14 years. She has a love for these people. They share the same faith, but she snaps on his ass and she lets him know not to speak out of turn and to address her as Mariko-sama. Okay? It's Mariko-sama, you bitch. Then we're in a meeting between Father Alvito and Toranaga. Toranaga is supposed to be stamping the approval to allow the black ship, which is the Portuguese ship, to leave their harbor. I don't know if they call it a harbor, but whatever, to leave. Toranaga is hesitant because of all of the information that he just received, and he decides he's not stamping that shit. And Toranaga basically lets him know, I know about all your little secret bases that you have in our region. And then he mentions he wants to know more about these secret bases before they negotiate anything any further. And then we see Father Del Agua, the guy that I said seemed like the head priest, back on the boat after receiving word that their ship is not permitted to leave yet. And he's on the ship with Kiyama, and he's upset about not being permitted to leave. And Kiyama says, allow this to be my burden. What is meant by that? Don't know, but I'm sure we're gonna find out. So in the next scene, everybody's getting ready for bed. We see Toranaga. Child, I thought that's what they slept in. I was like, is he about to lay on that big pillow? Those big body pillows, like when you're pregnant. Get the big body pillow. Put this huge big body. I was like, you about to sleep on that? That seems like comfortable. But apparently, he must have been expecting something. So while everybody's preparing for sleep, this female assassin comes in and she just starts taking people out. Okay, mostly ladies, but she taking people out, child. I don't think she took out any essential characters. She mostly took out a bunch of side characters, but she took out like 7 people. She was but she goes into Toranaga's room and sees, the pillow on the floor. She goes to kill it, the pillow. But Toranaga comes out from behind her with a sword and he slices her. She doesn't die initially. She goes towards him. She has her knife. She goes towards him. But this is when Blackthorne jumps in and he fights her off and essentially saving Toranaga. Obviously, after all of the commotion, people start running in. They're running to check on Toranaga. His son starts yelling, like, oh, Ishido done lost his mind. This is war, okay? But then Toranaga explains, this was not Ishido. They were not after me. I had to give in my room to your boy. This was an assassination attempt on Blackthorne, not me. And that's how this episode ends. A little failed assassination attempt. She took out a lot of people, though. Totally unnecessary. But why'd she kill all them women? Why do you do that during International Women's? You know what I mean? But that's how they decided to close out that episode, y'all. I absolutely love this episode. I love that we got more information on what's going on for us non-book readers and for those of us who didn't watch the original series. And I love that. I do love that because I am an avid book reader and I've had some of my favorite books turned into movies and shows. And yeah, they do change the story a little bit, but I love that element of surprise of like not knowing what's going on. And that whole idea is magnified by the fact that I don't know very much about Japanese history. There's a channel here on YouTube, it's called Linfly, and he does these little videos about certain concepts that were popular in Japan back in this time. So I would definitely recommend checking him out. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. My battery's about to die, so I gotta cut this one short. But I will see you guys for a review of episode 3. Bye.
Ela gosta dos maluca porque nós é vivido.